Hello. It's Emma Holmes coming to you from Rockstar HQ. I've got my brew and I'm ready for a bit of a combobulation conversation. So this video is about you, if you're a spiritual business owner particularly, but there's also lots and lots of information in there for any business owner, because I'm going to particularly focus on spiritual businesses and the growth of a spiritual business. And I know that when people are growing a spiritual based business, then what they're doing is they're taking their heart and their soul, what they believe in, their talents, and they're bringing them together in order to create an income from them. And I know that when lots of spiritual business owners start out, it can be really, really difficult to collaborate in their brain, taking this gift that they have, taking this connection that they have to spirit, or this ability that they have to heal, or whatever it might be, and actually creating a business out of it. The two seem to rub off each other and become really kind of conflicting, because there's this thing that's really natural and really connected and means so much to the individual. And then there's this idea of creating something very formal around it. And I know that for lots and lots of spiritual people, that when they start to think about taking their gifts and talents and turning them into a business, one of the first things that comes up is, what happens if I take something that I love, something that is really, really, really important to me, something that keeps me kind of balanced and aligned and is such an integral part of my life. What if I take that and create a beast out of it? What if I take that love and passion and actually turn it into something that I hate? So that's the first thing that comes up for people. And I think that what I want to say is that when you think about business doesn't have to be very formal, very profesh. You know, it doesn't have to have all of these kinds of bells and whistles that you might be thinking. It doesn't have to have lots of complicated strategies and lots of really difficult and cumbersome things that become involved in it. Business can be whatever you make it, okay? Business is you creating an element of exchange with somebody. So it is allowing you then to hone and use your talents even more. All right, because if you've got to go out to work every day, you're not going to be in a position to use your talents in such a huge extent as you would be able to do if you could concentrate on them each and every day. So the first thing that I want you to know is that actually creating a business is on your terms. All right, there isn't a set way that you've got to do this. There isn't a prescription to how this has to be. It doesn't have to be that you suddenly get suited and booted and head out to official businessy type network meetings. It doesn't mean that it has to show up in any particular styling. You know, the first thing to think about is, right, if I'm going to commit to making this into a business, then what I've got to do is I've got to start to make more connections, and I've got to be available to help more people, and I've got to start to share my message with the world. So I often see people talk about their why, and you know, when you're in business you need to have this why, and lots of people will talk about for their children, for their family, for their freedom, for their way of life, and all of that kind of stuff. And that stuff is fantastic and that stuff is great. But I think that often, you know, for a spiritual business owner, there's something bigger than that too. You know, there's a message and a passion and a purpose that is here to be shared with the world. And you have to jump in and, you know, be really passionate about sharing what you do. You've got to be ready to really jump in and go, actually, this is what I'm here to do. And when I get up every single morning, I'm not thinking particularly about income, because I think that money can be a very fickle motivator. Yes, we need to make money in our business, but you know, the undercurrent of that, it's a fickle motivator and can often leave you very, very stuck if you base your only why on money. I think if you also, base your why on on your living standards and on your family and things. And whilst that is such an integral part of why I do what I do, you know, it was the beginning. It was being able to work around my children. It was being able to be available for people who needed me. It was, you know, being able to create a life that I wanted. But even deeper than that, I wanted to share a message, and I wanted to help and support people. And throughout, you know, my kind of grown-up life, that's been a big reoccurring theme, is that the work that I've done has been about helping and supporting other people. And that's my big why. My big why is being able to help and support and nurture and look after other people, being able to be there for people, being able to reach out and, you know, make a difference. And, you know, I think that that's a really good way of looking at bringing together your spiritual business, is that you've got this purpose and you've got this message to share. And if you can't do that all of the time, if you can't do that, you know, as your general working day, then what's going to happen is that less people are going to be able to be supported by you. Less people are going to be able to access your help, because you're not going to be able to have enough energy and time, effort, energy and attention. This is a logs analogy that I use. You get so much time, effort, energy and attention each and every day, and you've got to choose which fires you put those in. If you put your logs into a fire that you actually don't want to exist and you don't want it to continue burning, then you're fueling a fire that you don't want. So you've got to choose where you put your time, your effort, your energy and your attention, and put it into a fire that you want to continue to burn and that you want to continue to make more and more and more of. So this is kind of looking at, you know, you have this purpose and you have this message. You want to start to share this message gift with the world, and creating a business from that can be and look like anything you want it to look like. You can do this on your terms. You know, you can do this designed in a way that works for you. And I actually actively encourage you to do that, because one size does not fit all when it comes to creating a business. This isn't about you just following a blueprint or just following these steps. This is about, you know, business foundations and business principles, absolutely, but always asking yourself, so how does that look for me? How would that work for me? What would that look like for me? How could I make that something within my business? I know that for lots of spiritual entrepreneurs, there's kind of two real big threads. One is that you are naturally very, very creative. You know, you're naturally extremely right-brained and creative, and you can use that creativity in such a huge way to help you to build your business. You know, you can start to look at creative ways that you can look at business strategy. You can start to look at creative ways to create a connection with your audience. You can start to look at creative ways of bringing together a business that is very, very unique, and it's very, very unique by the essence that you bring your creativity to it. You bring it to the plate, you bring it to the door, and you make the decision that you're going to do things in your way. And that makes you unique, and that makes you copy-proof, and that allows you to stand out in a crowd, and that allows you to start to create real connections with real people. And I think that that's a great thing. The other thing that lots and lots of spiritual entrepreneurs are introverted extroverts. So by essence, they have an awful lot of introvert traits. They like to go back into themselves and look after themselves and spend time alone. They fill their cup up very much by spending time alone. But they can also be quite extroverted with their views and their presentation. And, you know, once their confidence is raised, you know, they can have very much the persona of the extrovert. But I think that what's important is that you can bring those elements together, and you can, again, do it in a way that suits you. You know, you don't have to be public property. You don't have to be on all the time. You know, you don't have to be available for everybody all of the time. You know, if you create a business that is on your terms, then you get the ability to start to design how that looks. You get the ability to start to design how you're going to show up in that business. You get that ability to start to look at things in a way that suits you. You know, because like I said, one size does not fit all. So there's other things that come up, and, you know, I put a straw poll out there to ask people, about spiritual business and, you know, what they thought about spiritual business, spiritual entrepreneurs, so people who are actually, you know, part of the spiritual business space. The first thing that I know, and I know that a lot of people in the spiritual business space look on to on social media to lots of these big inspo pages, and they think that, right, okay, so if I study these big inspo pages, then I'm going to know exactly what I need to be doing in order to start to create a community, for example, on Facebook or on Instagram or wherever it might be. And the first thing that you need to know is that lots and lots of these spiritual businesses built their businesses in a time where things were very, very different. So social media has changed most hugely in the last 5 years. And, you know, what you could do 5 years ago and how you could create an audience 5 years ago is very, 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 very different to how you can do that now. And, you know, the games have changed, the rules have changed, and the way that you can build a business is very, very different. So, excuse me, what I see is lots and lots of people watching the big inspo pages, and they make the decision that they're going to share posts from other inspirational pages, because that seems to be what the big inspo pages are doing. Now, absolutely, that does seem to be what the big inspo pages are often doing. And, you know, it is, it kind of makes sense to think, well, if that's what they're doing and that's how they're growing their business, then surely that is a good strategy. But what I want you to know there is, number one, is that lots of these big inspo pages get involved in sharing arrangements. So these are arrangements where they cross-pollinate. So they're like little bees, and they have these arrangements with other big pages, and they cross-pollinate by sharing each other's posts. So you'll often see lots of the same pages sharing the same pages, and then that being a reciprocal arrangement. And they have been doing this for many, many, many years. And it's something that it doesn't sit all that comfortably with me, to be honest, but it's something that happens. So I want you to know that first and foremost, that actually just going out and sharing these things isn't a strategy that is going to, you know, really skyrocket your business, because they have underlying things behind what they're doing and how they're doing it. Just sharing other people's stuff also doesn't add an element of you to it. So I always look at, if I'm going to share something from somebody else's, one, it needs to be highly relevant to my crowd and to my audience. It needs to be something that they absolutely, completely, totally and utterly want to get involved with, and that would absolutely be, you know, a great message for them. I also make sure that I add commentary to that, so that I'm not kind of detracting from my own expert status. I know that sounds really, really, but you know, that kind of, that you're adding your own credibility into that message, and that you're talking about your own things. So actually just going out there and sharing things, because you see other big inspo pages do that, can absolutely put a message in front of your crowd, but you need to know that there's often underlying things behind that in terms of strategy from the big pages and the ways that they have grown their pages, because they've grown their pages in kind of the social media heyday, in the days where you could put together a Facebook post and all of your audience would see it. You know, the majority of your fans would see what you were putting out there. It would go out there and it would be there, and, you know, it would be, it was a quieter place. You know, social was a quieter place back in the day, and it was easier to gain traction. Obviously, a gazillion Facebook, all other platform, algorithm changes. So the algorithm, that's it's kind of a magical spell out of Hogwarts that every single social media post goes through for every platform that runs an algorithm, and they put the every post through this algorithm to decide how many people are going to see a particular post. Don't try and learn it. Number one, because it changes all of the time. Facebook don't give you or Instagram or any of those that run an algorithm don't give you the ins and outs and whys and wherefores of the algorithm. They'll tell you of major algorithm changes, and actually the algorithm's implementation varies depending on your audience and the times that you're posting and the ways that you work. So actually, getting to the bottom of it is just a waste of time. If you commit yourself to trying to get to the bottom of the algorithm, you're going to waste a shed load of time and probably not get any further forward, probably get obsessed in the metric. What I would always say is look for connection, look for connection, look for connection, look for connection. It's really important that you're always looking to connect with your audience rather than broadcasting out there and seeing what sticks. I think it's always important to look at the connections that you're making. So the world's changed, and that doesn't mean that it is not possible anymore to create a business that will work for you. It absolutely still is possible to use these amazing tools that we've got at our fingertips now. We've got access to be able to connect with people all over the world, and that is just the most phenomenal, privileged position to be in. So don't think that you can't do it anymore. Another thing that comes up when we look at kind of spiritual businesses is clicks. So there's often lots of spiritual businesses that work together, and this is kind of a little bit like the sharing arrangements and things like that, and it feels like they close ranks. And I think that it's really important that we're all very supportive of one another. I'm all about community. I'm all about being able to connect with people and create community. But actually, if people want to close ranks, then just let them crack on with it. Inaccessibility. So, you get a lot of people who do broadcast, and the magic for them is in the numbers, because they've created that business at a stage when they've managed to get an awful lot of numbers around them, or they've had the ability to leverage other platforms to get lots of numbers around them. But then they become really inaccessible. And, again, I go back to create connections, talk back to your audience, don't broadcast them, really concentrate on connecting with them. Don't be inaccessible. Don't be, sat up there in your ivory tower. Fakery and staging is another one that came up quite a lot. And, the fact that some people are creating a business of pixies and unicorns and everything being dandy. And, I'm coming down from the mountains and I'm going to preach to you kind of perspective. Doesn't need to be like that. All right, doesn't need to be like that. And I think that so often when we actually look at the fact that life isn't all pixies and unicorns, and we're able to share our stories with our crowds, and we're able to create, again, connection with our crowds, that is much more powerful than the preacher kind of role. You don't need to go down and preach to your audience that this is the way that things are, and that, look, aren't I leading this most spectacular life? And if you do this, you will also get this most spectacular life. Because no matter how spiritual you are, sometimes life hits you with a shit stick. And it doesn't mean that you deserved it. It doesn't mean that you brought it in with the law of attraction. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It is just that life happens sometimes. So I think that when you can connect with your crowd in a way that allows them to see that life happens, then that's a good thing. The other one that came up was churn. Just talking about the same things all the time. Just this kind of churn of sameness. And, I think that this happens a lot in all sectors. I don't think that this is just for the spiritual sector by any means. But kind of this whole just the same. Walk your own path. Make your own decisions. Talk about things with your life lens on them so that you can create compelling content. And that, again, that sounds really businessy, but, being able to tell that story to your audience and being able to put your own frame on it and being able to tell them about how that showed up in your world, that allows people to empathise with you, that allows people to connect with you, that allows people to get a deeper level of understanding of where you're coming from and how you can help them. This doesn't have to be all flowy skirts and flowers in your hair. But equally, if you are all flowy skirts and flowers in your hair, that is totally cool as well, because it is about creating a business that is around your own individuality. It is about creating a business that works for you. It is about creating a business that feels good. So I just wanted to come in and talk a little bit about some of those myths today, and I hope that you've found some bits in there that have sent you off on thought paths, made you think about other things, opened up some ideas that you can whiz through and start to implement in your business, or even start to think, actually, do you know what? Creating a spiritual business is right for me, because I can do this and I can bring it together, because it can be unique and I don't have to do it in a certain way. Then high five. So have an absolutely blessed rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now, and don't forget, if you are over here, make sure that you subscribe so that you can join lots and lots of other videos that we have here on the YouTube channel, and you get to know first about when I have uploaded a new one. Speak soon. Bye.